everybody, and hello everybody online. We're here at Somerset, Cambridge, with the wonderful Annah Stretton.
Thank you.
Anna, I drove from Auckland this morning and I...
Poor you.
Oh, no, it's all right. It was a good drive, actually. Beautiful at this time of year.
I know.
Coming into Cambridge is
my
always...
favourite time of the year.
Honestly, Cambridge is so pretty.
Yeah, but look at this day.
Yeah, then I went in there and into the main street, and there's your shop.
I know.
Women streaming in and out.
I know.
And I suspect some of them have come straight from your shop. So, ladies, this is such a lovely look when I look out here. Can the women please stand who are wearing Anna's creations? Come on.
Come on, ladies. I can see three anyway.
Yes, you know who they are.
I love that.
Lovely.
And there's also our centre manager. She's wearing one as well. Yes, so she.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have, I've shown you on the Zoom call, I have one of your Annah Stretton
laptop. Yeah. Do you think that counts?
I don't know, I couldn't wear it.
I know.
But it is with me.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to have a lovely time together here for about 45 minutes or so, and I know you've got some questions as well. But this is your patch. You were born, you're a Waikato girl, aren't you?
Well, I wasn't born here, but I am a Waikato girl.
Where were you born?
I was born in Whanganui.
Okay.
Yeah. I lived there till I was 6, then we moved to the Hawke's Bay. And it was Havelock North where I did most of my schooling. Went to Karamu High School in Hastings and then ended up for a year in Paihia-Tua.
Yes, I know. It's not too far from Ekatahuna.
Yeah, very close, very close. My parents bought a hotel there. They got into the publican journey. And then I Dunedin for tertiary. The start of tertiary, and then it's sort of back into the Waikato. I met a man from Taupo at THC Wairakei. Most of you all know the THC chains, and we ended up back in the Hawke's Bay. So that's where. So it's that full circle, isn't it? You end up back in Havelock North.
Okay, and then how did you end up over here?
Well, he was he wanted to be a dairy farmer. So and this is where you do dairy farming, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he was very keen to supply the boutique of all dairy companies, Tatua. So Tatua was high on his radar. So we ended up in Morrinsville, just down the road from Tatua Dairy Company. So.
And is that where you remain?
No, because that was my first husband. I think we all need
Okay. He was the trial run.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, I think we all need a couple of goes at that.
Okay, right, okay.
No, so he's still here. We're both still here, but I'm not with him. I'm not on the farm. But effectively, when our marriage broke, I just I had the company was running at the same time. So that's the big story. I had the company on the farm. And,
right. Okay.
We ended up I moved the company into Morrinsville, into the old post office building. Yeah. So that was the marriage split, and that's why I ended up in Morrinsville.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
when you split, you can't kind of stay on the property.
Yeah. Yes, I understand.
Yeah.
So you started your business on a farm, right? Tell me about the genesis of this business.
Yeah, it's a big story. So it's how I get it into the elevator pitch, which is the moment I meet Richard Branson in the elevator, and he wants to invest in my business, and I've got it all kind of locked off.
Okay, well, pretend I'm Richard Branson.
Yeah,
So how did this all start?
Yeah, I guess for me, I went to art school in Dunedin. So prior to I went to art school. I realised at art school that I was never going to be the next Ralph Hotary. I loved art, but I just felt that I wasn't good enough to do anything with that. And from art school, I ended up art school I ended up in hospitality. So I sort of thought, this is not for me, but I didn't really know what I was going to do. So I got involved in hospitality. Hospitality took me into THC. So at 19, I was running the restaurant at THC Wairakei, and that was massive.
Yeah.
There was all these big events for BP Europa and all these Fletcher Challenge and all these huge companies that were having their sort of mid-year Christmas or their end of years there. So it was a massive job for a 19-year-old. And it was there that I met my first husband, John Stretton, so I kept that name. Two children to John, so I kind of wanted the unity of name. But I met him there, and we decided to move back as a young couple did to Hawke's Bay because he was keen to make a little bit more money. He was a steward at Waiariki. He was keen to make a little bit more money, and he wanted to drive the pea harvesters in Hawke's Bay. So we ended up back in territory that I knew in the Hawke's Bay. I was still working in hospitality, and it was my dad who said to me after too many Lieberstroms, you know, the cast wine.
I remember them.
Yeah,
Remember them?
we were around the pool area. Actually, Dad's home was the home that... I don't know if Rod Jury's so popular now, but...
we know the name.
Yeah, but he brought Dad's home when Dad passed, and turned it into a very, much bigger footprint than we ever had. But, so we, with the Lieberstroms around the pool, it was my father that said to me, you know, you're wasting your life in hospitality, and you're just mucking around, you're not really doing anything. I'd just been fired from the hospitality job I was doing, and most of the work I was doing was as a maitre d' or a restaurant manager. I'd just lost my job because I'd pulled a sickie to go to the beach, and
This doesn't seem to go with
they'd rung to check something with me,
okay.
and my younger sister had said, oh, she's at the beach, you know, like, so I was hardly
family.
sick. They said, well, maybe you shouldn't come back. So that was kind of the end of that. But it was, and Dad's words were probably fair around I was actually probably not reaching my full potential. And that's when I said to him, you know what? I could do anything that you could do, but you couldn't do anything that I could do, because the left and right brain are quite separate and distinct. So the right brain can actually swap that. The right is the creative brain, so the right brain can swap into the sort of the financial side, but the left can't swap back. So if you're not creative or you're not kind of wired that way, it's very hard to become that. So he said, really, why don't you show me that? And I said, pick a degree and I'll do it for you. He was an accountant and a lawyer at the time. And he said, look, I don't know, why don't you pick it? You're going to do it. And I went, accountancy, I'll do that. Oh my gosh.
You did accountancy with such a creative brain. Gosh,
I did 7 years.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I passed everything. Then I joined accountancy firms. It was the most dreary time of my life.
And your father went, well done.
Well, he did, but I guess for me, what I had done is I'd set myself up for life, because I had the creative side anyway.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I found that I was pregnant when I sat my last paper. I was pregnant in the same year, so I knew that was kind of done and dusted, which was great, because I also knew that I guess one of the things I realised, I had insane levels of discipline to be able to do something like accountancy when you're so not connected to that. It really showed me that you can, if you just apply yourself to anything you actually set your mind to. So I... completed the accountancy, had my first baby. It's probably in her name, it was a baby girl, Sammy. I christened her Samantha, but she's changed her name to Sammy. But she is now part of the fashion company, and she's now 37 years of age. But that was the first time I ever had 8 months off work. But being off work's it's a bit of an oxymoron for me, because my sister and I bought a restaurant.
Okay, well, you've got a small baby.
And the restaurant was in the same street as the maternity home, which was fortunate, because I was able to, they looked after the baby. You know, you get 5, I got 5 days, so I was able to feed the baby, go down and work, and do whatever, and then come, they would call me when the baby woke up. So that was kind of, that's the kind of insane person that I am. If I'm not crazy busy, I think there's something kind of not happening or wrong, or I look for.
So 34 years ago, you've got a brand new baby, which you're feeding.
Well, she's 37 now,
37,
so 37.
Okay. Yeah. And then you and your sister are running a restaurant. You've done your accountancy degree.
Yeah.
But you've still got this whole creative thing that's just there and dormant. And then very soon you must start this label.
Well, what happened was I took the 8 months off from an accountancy firm, because I'd obviously come out of accountancy, because to study accountancy through the polytechs, you actually have to work in accountancy firms as well. So I was working for Ernst & Young at the time. They rang me around 8 months into, we didn't have maternity leave then, but just 8 months out of what they thought was out of accountancy work, and said, look, you're never going to stay out of work permanently, it's time to come back in. And I said, yeah, but I'm never coming back to accountancy. I hate it. And they said, well,
did you say that to them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
okay.
I mean, I kind of formed friendships, and it was a positive hate.
Right.
It was just, it wasn't a kind of a negative moment. But they said, look, you know what, we thought you might say that. There's a fashion company in Morrinsville, Tracy Manufacturing, that are looking for an accountant. Would you like to give that a go? And so I did. I said, yeah, I will. So I went in, and I was kind of working in an accountancy capacity for them. But they were they were kind of very, very generic. They had the Levi's contract, they had the police contract, they were working with a lot of the big players like Farmers, Easy Buy. So it was kind of a wholesale business where we would travel, we would pick up styles that were trending and we would come back and make them. So there was an element of being creative because you had to have an eye for something that was actually going to be commercially sound.
But you were the accountant for them.
I was, but it started with accounting and then they said, do you want the full-time accountancy position? And I said, no, it's one thing I do not want. And they said, well, you've had your nose in the design department. Would you like to give that a go? And I said, yeah. And effectively, that was just it was a numbers game because it was a wheeling and dealing thing. You know, we were picking up styles and working out where the profit lay because you could imagine, like, the margins when you're making in New Zealand, working with the chain stores where their magic price point was $49. We had to get everything ground down. So there was a accountancy element. It was kind of a massaging of the role, which introduced me into that design space. So the design space is... that went well for them, and I loved, you know, the travelling, the choosing of the styles. I was travelling with people like Jared Gillespie from Easy Buy, with Just Jeans, so we would all go away together. We'd go away twice a year, and it was effectively on the season change that would happen up in Europe, or you know, and we'd come back through America and kind of pillage their stores of all the key and winning styles.
What would you do? Go pick through and
we just pick through and pick them up. Yeah, I just go, look, this shirt will work. You know, if we change this or do this, or half the time we wouldn't even change it. You know, we just say, hey, this is a winning style, this will work. This is how the chain stores used to work in those days. We just travelled, picked up the styles, and then put the collections together, then went and sold them. So that was going well. That was the wholesale side of the business, that they had a sort of a contract manufacturing piece, which was the jeans and the police uniforms, but then they had set up this wholesale. So they got me an assistant to come down and help me, and she came from Auckland. So she came out of the rag trade in Auckland, and she arrived and sort of said, why are you doing this for someone else? You could actually do this for yourself. And I went, have you seen what happens when something goes wrong down there? Like when 5,000 garments that are destined for Easy Buy are too small or the wrong colour and they cancel the order. So where did they go? I mean, they're at kind of the bottom end of the feeding chain. I mean, and that's said positively, not negatively, but, you know, where do you sell 5,000 garments? I said, no, I'm not up for this at all. She said, you know what? There's a whole lot of people that are not very smart in Auckland doing this. You could actually do this. So I did.
So you said, bye? I'm now
I said, well, you know, she's probably right. And one of the first, so I left, I went out onto the farm. We had a farm just number 8 road, which was the main kind of road to Auckland, Highway 27. We moved some prefabricated buildings on there. I started to do just exactly what I was doing with Tracy Manufacturing, but really conscious that they were much more about denim and woven goods. So I decided to tackle knits, so T-shirts and things that they didn't really want to tackle, because from a construction point of view, that was just a bit fancy for them. Okay. So I approached Kmart New Zealand, and I guess within about 3 or 4 years, I had a $5 million business with them. You know, I just did really, really well. I mean, as it is today, it was about the relationships. You know, for me, everything I do, where I get traction or success, is around relationships, and that works for me. So, so that's kind of just, you know, on the farm, the prefabs were put on that we operated out of, and I knew all these people because I've been travelling with them, so I was able to approach them, but was very keen not to cut across the base of Tracy Manufacturing what they were doing, because there's kind of this honour thing, and so just went for the things that I knew they'd said no to.
So 2 kids by the stage? Or?
Edward was born in 91, the company was set up in 92. So, and Sam was born in 88. So, I had 2 small children.
Busy life.
Yeah, but I had help. You know, like I employed nannies. So the nannies were on the books because they weren't looking after the kids. They were quality controlling garments because everything was done in New Zealand. You know, we were doing it and on the farm. I mean, I remember my biggest order in my first year was 80,000 shift dresses to farmers. And I can remember sitting there, and I'd actually commandeered my daughter's room. I'd sort of moved her, and I was sitting there with my Ugg boots on the desk, and I was talking to the women's wear bar, and I'd sent her a shift dress, which is like a singlet dress, you know, just a very simple. And I'd said, so what do you think? And she said, well, yeah, we really like them. We're going to do a run. And I said, oh, yeah, how many? She said, well, I thought we'd do 80,000. So it's just like...
And what were you expecting? in your head?
Probably 1,000. You know, like it was just,
Oh, okay.
you know, it's just like, I mean, oh my God, this is just insane. You know, like the numbers that these are doing in that time. So that was right across all these stores, right across the, you know, and
Were
it
you
was
geared up at that point to be able to deliver?
No, we weren't. But, you know, I was able to, I guess I've always thought about, you know, how I achieve things as more sort of solution driven. So if something comes my way, I don't think, oh my gosh, I can't do that.
No,
I think,
yes
how am I going to do this? And that's how I do that. So, and you'll see with some of the conversation we're going to have around the prison where I've tackled that it's never been, I'm not very good at a no. You know,
well,
a no is just a kind of a maybe. So we managed to do it by using the community, just using everything we had to achieve it and sew those dresses. Yeah.
So you're talking about sort of T-shirts and shift dresses, but this is not what we do now.
No, we're 34 years into it, aren't we? And there's a whole journey of Fashion Week that kind of populated all that. And
I remember.
It changed. The landscape's really changed. You know, like effectively, if you want an affordable dress now, you can go onto Temu or Shine or, you know, any of those. So the landscape's so different in respect of the way that we transact. So, you know, we have to keep evolving and pivoting and changing and doing what we do.
So talk us through a bit of that, because yes, I was a young woman in the 90s, and I'm trying to think of the labels I would have worn then or were given to me to wear. But it was an interesting time, right? Things were definitely made in New Zealand.
Very much,
and then things shifted, so it was like things became cheaper and you get them offshore. It's a moving feast. So how do you keep ahead of that? You're obviously just knowing what's happening with your accounting brain. That maths ain't going to work. Mrs. Smith and Mrs. Brown are not buying that anymore. I mean,
well, I think in the time that I've been in business, the changes have been seismic, just absolutely seismic. So it's also, I guess, the big thing is keeping yourself relevant when you're aging, and how do you keep yourself relevant? Because I run into a lot of young women now who've got no idea of the fashion brand. You know, it's not in their sights. And when I was younger and I was their age, it was in their sights. You know, so my population have aged with me, and so that'll be one of the most interesting things for my daughter to be able to do that. But then alongside that, there's been the change in the way that we transact. So the online versus, you know, physically transacting. So in my heyday, I had over 45 stores in Australia and New Zealand.
Gosh,
so
that's hard.
Yeah, it was a lot that I was. So, but we went online. So, and then there's been this kind of evolution of product and what the styling looks like. So initially we were very much, I mean, you remember Jean Jones of old, where they had their kind of line of, so we were very much around the great linen shirt. You know, you could buy a great linen shirt off Annah Stretton for $99, and we were known for that. So we never started off as the floral label. We were very much about kind of plain. We were very, my focus was affordability, because I'd been taught by Jared Gillespie and Tim Glasson, you know, Easy Buy, Tim Glasson, all of the chains had taught me about price points that get people to buy in multiples. And so effectively I had all this knowledge around, if I could put a linen shirt out for $99, the woman would buy two, because she would effectively see herself as buying in the designer framework. So she'd moved out of chain. Right. So, and Jen Jones worked on a similar strategy with their, you know, their tracksuits, and you could buy all the colours with their, you know, so they were in a price-pointed space. We were just trying to target that affordable where you would buy more. So we certainly weren't highly floral at the start.
But then, so you moved from that to another level up, though, didn't
you?
Yeah,
we applied for Fashion Week, and Fashion Week told us that they wouldn't accept us because we were too generic. So we were Anna S then, and we were they felt they saw us in the vein of just all of the mass chain. And you know, we had a lot of stores, and we probably exactly that. And I thought, you know what? I'm actually really keen to reinvent and be part of that fashion side. And I started to think about what could a label look like if I developed one under my own brand, Annah Stretton. So we still had Anna S running alongside, but we started to play with Annah Stretton. And the first thing we did was we opened a small store in Hamilton East, and we called it Frock. It was called...
You remember it? Some people are nodding their heads. Yes, Frock.
And I just got to play. You know, I just did this insane stuff that, you know, we just put stuff together. It was all still made in New Zealand and limited runs, and it didn't do very well because it was so extreme. It was just so extreme that people couldn't place it in their lives. But it did allow me to play. It did allow me to get my head around what could potentially work and what wasn't. So that was kind of the start of that. Then we applied to Fashion Week again, and we applied under our own brand, and they let us in. That let us show. So
is Fashion Week a big thing for selling, or is it more a prestige thing?
Oh, in those days, I thought it was prestige. I wanted to be part of that
club.
That club. I wanted to be that. And every time I showed, they just thrashed me. Like I'd open the Herald and they'd talk about Annah Stretton from Matamata. They couldn't even get the bloody location right, and her tribe were waiting at the door to get in. Oh, they were terrible. You wouldn't even be able to do it now. Like some of the stuff that they said now, you would not be able to report. And they would, she tries to do whatever, but she's failed again. It was just terrible, terrible reporting. And then I got into about year 3, I think, and I put the boar's head on the catwalk, and I just...
What did you do?
A boar's head, a pig's head.
Oh, okay.
Tell me you don't know the story?
No, I don't know this. Does anyone know the story?
Does anyone know the story?
No, tell the story.
Oh, well, I was just a bit over it. I was over trying to be part of the in crowd that I thought I wanted to belong to, and I was tired of being rejected, and I didn't know how to get comfortable in my own skin. And I was at the time, and that was to keep the creative presence up. I was showing at WOW, World of Wearable Arts, so we were putting together outfits. So we created an entry. I knew Susie Moncrief quite well, and so I was putting these entries together. And my first entry was a pig's head. One of my team came up with, her man was a hunter, and he came with this huge boar's head that had it in the freezer. And
so it didn't stink, obviously.
And I decided to do this Beauty and the Beast. So I did this gorgeous, gorgeous dress, and then I put this pig's head on the top. The outfit did really well at WOW. Like I got placed as a finalist, but don't forget that was years ago before WOW was global and everyone was doing these extreme entries. So I was in at the very start, and we showed for about 8 years at WOW. But I put the boar's head on, so it called Beauty and the Beast, and then it had done so well at WOW. It got so much wonderful publicity, positive publicity, because I wasn't being thrashed in that circle. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give it a run on the catwalk at Fashion Week. It seems a shame to have this piece. So I called my show Feral Beauty. And the pig's head was the first piece of that. And we were driving up to Auckland, and I guess my new partner, Tony, who I've now been with 27 years or something, but he said to me, what are you expecting out of this? I guess he knew the pain I went through every time, and he knew how hard it was for me, because I tried so much to be like them and be accepted, and was always rejected. It was always so hard. And he sort of said, what do you want from this? And I went, front page of every national paper would be awesome.
Good on you.
Yeah, it would be. And he goes, oh, yeah. And anyway, we achieved it because, of course, the pig's head came out, and the paper's only just wanting something that's sensational. And they found all this, which the media do now, they found all this rubbish around how I'd actually made the model wear it, and she was crying. And,
really?
It was a negative story because they loved, but it still made front page of every. But that, of course, got all the fur protesters on my back because there was possum fur in the show, and it was just. But I've spent my life dealing with just the negative aspects.
Sounds like it.
Of that sort of. But the pig did particularly well.
Go with the pig.
I remember Charlotte Dawson was speaking at...
R.I.P.
Yeah, she was speaking at one of the Fashion Week dinners, and she went, Annah Stretton's pig. And I thought, oh my God, when did I get an R in my bloody name? She couldn't even get Annah Stretton's pig right. But it was, and kind of after that, I showed for 13 years, but, the interesting thing, even in the 10-year anniversary, and I showed for 13 years there, I was the only designer they did not ask to come back and get involved. It was quite incredible what they did. And today, you just wouldn't even be able to kind of do that. It's so exclusive. And, I would hate to be anyone that did that to anyone. So it certainly taught me around just that ostracisation from my own sector. Yeah,
that's sad.
Yeah, but it's fine.
Interesting.
Because it kind of teaches you how to, and because a lot of the work that I do in the prisons today, it teaches you how to kind of deal with, and it teaches you how to be more empathetic and to put yourself in someone else's shoes. I think those lessons are good.
Let's go there now about RAW.
RAW.
Yeah, so what does this stand for?
RAW stands for Reclaim Another Woman. So it's an acronym, R-A-W, And if I'm talking to AI, it's R-O-A-R. But I've had to kind of chastise itself. So many times I'm the person who growls at AI.
Fair enough. So how does one reclaim another woman? What was your plan and how's it going?
That's such a big story too. We started in 2014. I had a reach out from the Waikato Women's Refuge. They were in financial trouble, and I've been connected with a lot of different charities in the Waikato, just endeavouring to assist them, put in their governance boards, get their financial structures, and also create a sort of an event that they could have every year. So True Colours, they do the long lunch, some of you may have seen or heard, but that's an event we created for them. So we try to get involved in that way. So when Ronnie Albert, the CEO of Waikato Women's Refuge, came out to see me, they were kind of looking for sort of that support in respect of whatever it was that I could do. I sort of felt that it would be super interesting to get involved with Māori, because I'd kind of been, like a lot of people, very kind of discouraging around my commentary around Māori, and I had such little understanding. So I was really interested in getting a deeper understanding and a deeper knowledge. So I agreed to help the refuge, and that was effectively just through getting involved with them. And that was sort of setting up their governance board, getting them financially strong, making the connections in the community, all the stuff that I just love to do. And it was, so after a sort of a year with them, I saw the wonderful work that they were doing in crisis, but I thought, how could I create a model where we could teach women to fish rather than continuing to feed them fish, because that is the most debilitating space for women to be in. So, and that's when I started to think, what could that look like? So we started to build it in respect of utilising the women of refuge, so trying to find opportunity and more structure for them. But whilst we had all access to all of that through the vocations, the education, the housing, the women were not in a space to really be thinking about anything other than the safety of their children, where they were going to live, what that was going to look like. So they weren't kind of thinking about advancing. Within the refuge women, we also met women that had been to prison. And so I kind of had no fear of that space. And I thought, what if I took this model that I was developing and put it into the women's prisons? Because that's a space where women are stable. And that they're not taking the drugs, they're not being subjected to the violence, they don't have the distractions. So maybe a change model would be better in the women's prison. It's kind of hard to, I guess, introduce yourself to corrections when you're a fashion designer. It's with
so this is why you did the post-grad work. Is this where we're going?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I didn't do that until about 5 years into it, because I got sick of them kind of once again just kind of knocking me back. But the way that I got into the prisons was effectively I knocked on the door of the CE at the time, Ray Smith, and I said, hey, can I meet with you? And he was just kind of curious because I had a brand profile, he had a profile based around. He said, sure. And he brought all his deputies, who were all women, along. And their biggest dilemma was what to wear that morning. And so, but I would have been in the gear I arrived in, which is my black tee and my raw tee and my puffer. But that was kind of the opening of the door, because as Ray said, what the hell do you want with the prisons? And I said, I just want to try some stuff. I just want to do some stuff. And he said, I said, what do you what's the problem with actually giving me access into the prisons to work with the women? He said, you might get harmed. And I said, I'm prepared to take that risk. I just don't believe I'll be harmed. And in the 12 or 13 years I've been working there, I've never been harmed, quite the opposite. I mean, I've just come from the prison this morning. I've, been nothing but protected and supported in that space. But so Raw was born, Raw started to operate in the prison, and effectively we just look to create different opportunities on release. So we know that if you normalise criminality because it's intergenerational, here's all my academic speak coming out, but if you normalise it because it's what you know, because your grandmother's been in that space, your mother, your aunties, your families, you're going to do exactly the same thing. We live the lives of the way that we're nurtured. We normalise that, and it's not scary, and it's not difficult, and it's not bad for anyone living that life. So for me, and you don't know what you don't know. So effectively, how do you introduce that concept? And doing that in a prison is perfect.
So what did you take to the table? What was your idea?
What they're called is constructive activities. So we can't, and so effectively they're little slices of life. So they might be makeup courses, they might be cosmetic, we might be doing dance, we might be doing financial, we might be doing te reo, we might be doing anything and everything. We might be doing arts, we're introducing women to something that potentially could pique their interest on release.
Right.
And so that therefore could get them into a space where they potentially look to train. The difficulty is for us is that we deal with the most complex women in this country, and so therefore the barriers to, say, getting employment are massive and pretty much a no. So I guess my aha moment and new project at the moment is an enterprise hub where women can start to we work out at the Waikeria prison at the moment, where there's 80 women that I work with on a daily basis. But once they exit, could we get them into an enterprise hub which would assist flesh out some of those things they're interested in, i.e. let's take makeup. So if you're interested in makeup as a small business, we would have people that could train you to a level that you'd be able to affect that and charge someone to do their makeup. We know that costs money to get our makeup done, and so there's a need for that. There's a market for that, and therefore that is probably going to just be a bit of an easier avenue for you than selling drugs, or not, because selling drugs is pretty easy and lucrative too.
So at the moment, you're working in the prisons, and that's your that's the next project, you think?
Well, that's just kind of because what happened, we've been working out of Auckland Women's, Christchurch Women's and Wellington Women's. So there's 3 prisons. The muster blowout in Auckland last year was massive, and that's given the government at the moment. It's about locking them up to ensure that electoral promises are kept. We want communities safe, we want to lock people up. So that's created a muster blowout. So the population is bigger than it's ever been. So what they did is they opened the old defunct, condemned men's part. There's a sort of these old units in the men's prison in Waikeria, which is just south of Te Awamutu. And they got the woman to go and clean them up. Then they incarcerated them in there, so they put them in there, and they can take 80. They didn't know what to do with that in the immediate time frame, because the muster blowout caught them by surprise. So they relocated the woman there, but they knew that I'd been banging on about if we do things differently, we might get a different outcome. And so could I have a go at it? And so they said, you can have a go in this prison. So that's where we're at the moment. But the continuation of that is, okay, I've now seen girls that because war's been going for 14 years, so I've now seen girls come out that have got degrees, they've got master's degrees, they've brought businesses, but effectively those girls that have done extreme levels of academia still have trouble getting employed.
Because of the
the records are extensive. So if you're looking at someone who's been locked up for 14 years for dealing methamphetamine and she's got a master's degree, you're still in this environment going to put her at the bottom of the pile when you're looking at whether you're going to recruit or not. So it's harder.
Sounds like you've had some success there, though.
Yes, we have. We've had so much success, But this next piece is they're coming out of that academic space, which I've encouraged them to go into, but the opportunities are lightweight. And I've always figured that some of the girls have been very senior in drug dealing in the gangs. So they've been working at a very high level around the dealing of meth, and they're capable. So they've got transferable skills. So why wouldn't I actually bring that into a business sense? And business is what I know and what I love. So,
because you must be inspirational to these women.
Well, they're inspirational to me.
Oh, there you go. It's a two-way street.
I mean, it's for me. They've taught me how to lead differently. They've taught me a different understanding. I guess before I got involved in Raw, it was always my way or the highway. They don't accept that. You've got to actually. There's got to be a meeting of the mind. There's an understanding. There's a journey that exists before you even gain any kind of connection. Whereas when I'm working commercially, people just respect you because of what you've achieved. Now, with the girls in prison, they don't care. They don't care whether I live or die, actually. When I walk into a prison, they don't know who I am. They don't care. I mean, I was in there today and there was one of the inspectors was there, and the prison manager said to me, look, I'll introduce you to one of our inspectors. I'm always a little bit kind of, those inspectors are internal, so I'm kind of thinking they're inspecting themselves.
So to
And
speak.
so we go over to meet her, and I got caught up with one of the girls. One of the inmates came over to talk to me, and so it was my sister who works with me that met with the inspector, and she goes, "Oh my God, is that the fashion designer?" And I'm thinking, how do I get rid of this label? But
it's funny that you really wanted that label.
I didn't want that label.
No, you really wanted
oh
it,
my God,
and
is
now
that
you're
the
moving on.
founder of Raw? You know, and have they been
Yes.
doing all the wonderful stuff in here for the last sort of 8 months? And because we've introduced so much awesome stuff into it. Yeah. So
I can see there's a pattern here, you know, chasing, want to be that, want to be that. Okay, I've done that. Now I'm chasing.
well, no, Raw still features, but I guess it's more how do we keep elevating
Yes,
it? Yeah. So I
you're-
never sort of think, okay,
you don't sit still.
I'm kind of done. You know, like I don't think like that.
No.
Yeah.
Well, before we get back to the brand, there's other things that you've gone and done. And I was looking at Olive's kitchen because I have a dog that has some allergy issues. I'm thinking, I was looking around and went, what's that story? So your dog, she finds something and fixes it.
Well, no, it's. I think they're opportunities, and sometimes those opportunities are not where I want to go. Others they are. But I'm a big fan of white boxer dogs, and white boxer dogs are kind of a throwback in the breed. So if they get them, it's a genetic fault of the breeders. So usually they actually. Put them out, put them down, but this was in the early days when this was happening, and I guess I learnt about that. I would approach breeders, and I would buy, I would get a white boxer dog. So I've had three. The first dog died of cancer. And that was a dreadful journey of just treatment and cost and trauma, and then she died anyway. So I decided that, so when I got Olive, the second, so it's Olive's kitchen, when I got Olive at 3, of course, she's diagnosed with cancer. 50% of our dogs get cancer, so she's diagnosed with cancer, and I'm thinking, you know what, I am not going to do this journey anymore. I am not going to go down the pharmaceutical route. I'm going to become this crazy woman that actually works out how to cure her holistically. So I learnt stuff, I Googled stuff, I tried stuff, I teed up with holistic vets, and I started conversations. I met people that were involved in research in Australia. I went all out to try and work out what I could do to just prolong Olive's life. And I got her to 10, so I did pretty well. So she got cancer at 3. But anyway, I had all this stuff, and everywhere we went, if we went to our beach house or went anywhere, I used to take this big kit of all Olive's sort of stuff. And it was just food. It was just food that I was working with. And Olive was ostensibly healthy, and I hadn't gone down the chemo route that they'd suggested that I do. And anyway, the CEO of Refuge, who had become a very good friend of mine, rang me up and she said, look, hey, Anna, that stuff that you're giving to Olive, could I have it for Nui? I'm worried about, Nui's kind of showing the same. And I said, sure, this is what I do. And so I gave her the list of everything that I had. Anyway, I was round there having a cup of coffee with her. It came time to feed the dogs, and she brings out this bloody big bag. And I go, what is in that bag? And she goes, that's the stuff that you told me. She said, stuff if I was going to have a whole lot of different canisters. So I just upended everything into a bag, and I just feed out of that. And I said, well, how do you know you've kind of measured it right? And she said, well, I just worked it on the proportions that you told me, and I've now got this bag. And I thought, oh my God, we've got a supplement. And so I thought, this could be something. And so that's the moment you get that. And oh my God, it's been huge. I had no idea that supplement would actually solve so many problems for dog owners. Yes, I kept Olive alive till she was 10. She died just before she was 10. But Olive's Kitchen is now being sold in Australia. It's in the supermarkets, and it's just a supplement called Doggy Daily, which effectively is around balancing your gut. It's a gut.
The old gut microbiome, it's everywhere now.
It's just that's all it focused on. But we're ahead of our time in that, because it was 7 years ago that we started. But it's been huge. It's been absolutely huge.
And it's a supplement that you feed your dog.
It's just like it's all a mix of herbs, and it's got turmeric, it's got mushroom. Oh God, I couldn't even, it's a whole lot of stuff. But we did all the work with the vets and to get all the percentages but what blows me away.
Olive lives on.
Well, Olive's not. She's dead now.
But she lives on in her purpose.
What blew me away was going on. The last thing I do before I go to sleep at night, which I don't know is you shouldn't do it because of the blue light, is I scroll the phone to see what's happening on Facebook. Yeah. And I get blown away by the people, because people who love their dogs, I mean, they'll go on and just advocate, and they'll go, oh my God, you know, like I started taking Doggy Daily, which is the supplement in Olive's Kitchen, and just the difference. And they'll put bloody pictures up, and we don't even have to pay for that. You know, like they'll put up these before and after. You try and get someone to do that in fashion, you've got to pay. You know, like they're just so in love with what's happened. But I'm also blown away with what's happened.
It must be thrilling to you to look at that.
Well, I think about little old Olive and that moment where I was just this insane woman sitting in my office looking at tungsten oil and lemon balms and trying to work out how I would, you know, cure Olive.
Because you loved your dog, and now these people are very grateful that same Olive.
There's hundreds of them. What that supplement has done has been beyond anything that, you know, and dogs can't lie. You know, like it's not like someone can say, oh, look, I feel great after taking this.
True.
It's a visible thing that people are seeing. You know, like their dog's red and really itchy, and they'll put up a photo, and then, you know, sort of 3 days later, they'll go, oh my God, look what's just happened. And you can imagine what that does for us. So just had no idea. But Olive's legacy is... But yeah, that was just a small moment in time where I guess when you're entrepreneurial and you have these ideas, you just execute them.
That is you.
Good. Yeah.
This is definitely this woman.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look that up because I have a dog that is itchy and probably has a gut problem.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's my job after this. And then there's other things. I'm going to give you a go in a minute, by the way. The sisterhood thing. What I read about that. It's about
sisterhood
women,
social.
Yeah, women connecting with women. I love that idea.
Yeah, I was
it's
sitting...
quite hard to make friends as an adult.
It is. No, it really is. I was sitting with my hairdresser because I'm often there getting a blow wave because my daughter likes me to do what they call founder posts on social media. So, and I also podcast. I've got a podcast called Stretton Unfiltered, and I do that sort of 2 or 3 days a week as well. So I get my hair blow waved, sitting there with my hairdresser I know really well, and she's back on the dating sites. And she's having dreadful luck. It was just shocking what was happening with her. And I just thought, oh my gosh. And every week I'd go in and hear about another idiot that had kind of stood her up or given her a really rough time, or, you know, and I'd think, why wouldn't she just look for a great group of girls? You know, why wouldn't she be happy just being with girlfriends? And
they're also hard to find.
Yeah,
actually.
But I thought, where would you go if you just wanted to meet a great group of women? I mean, I guess you got the benefit of being together. So where would you go? And I thought, so I started to do my research, and I thought, God, there's nowhere. There's nowhere that you can go online, and it's an online thing because we're all online, and you can meet women. And so I thought, it's a bit like Olive's Kitchen. It's another aha moment. So Sisterhood Social was born, and that's just effectively, think about it, it's a friendship site for women. So you've got to be 40 to join it. You register, you put a photo, you upload your license so we know you're not a bot, you're a real person.
Oh, yes.
And it's location-based and AI matched. And it's brand new, and we're just starting to sort of move out through the country now. But it's for 3 sort of types of women, I guess, or 3 types of scenario. It's for women who've relocated. I mean, you know, there's lots of relocation that happens where women just sort of think, where do I even start? And especially if your kids are not at school. And that's why we went 40 plus, because we just felt. And then there's kind of women that are a little bit lonely. They may have had a partner die, circumstances have changed, you know, their friend group has changed, or their preferences. But then there's women like me who just love to meet people. You know, I just love to expand my friends' network. I love that. So, you know, so I didn't want to make it all about people that were desperately lonely, because people will kind of think, oh, who am I going to meet and how hard could that be? But I did want to include people that were desperately lonely. So it was about how I did that, but I had a really nice balance of people that were there. This morning I was asked if transgender could join the site, so that'll be an interesting... So, but I think, yes, I guess as long as there's kind of a category of disclosure, so the matching is, you know, comfortable, and people are all, you know who's being matched, both for transgender and for anyone else. So, yeah. And
do you do social events as well as just
that's interesting, because the women want me to do social events, and that's the thing I don't want to do. And
you'll end up there.
Yeah, we are. I've already done 10 of them.
Right.
But it's like, but then that becomes the crutch that I'm going to turn up every month and do these events, when I want them to get really savvy digitally and be able to go on and do this themselves, because this is the way of the 21st century. So it's really, but what I've found too, that women 50 plus can struggle a little bit digitally, you know, and so that becomes a bit of a barrier. So we're just trying to work out how we get that a little bit easier, but also make the site safe so people are safe.
While we're on digital, random question, but what do you think about AI and where that's going?
Oh, look, I think I'm in love with AI. I think
Are
I would
you?
leave my partner for AI.
Would you?
Yeah.
I'm not in love with AI.
I
I'm the
love
opposite.
AI.
Do you?
So yeah,
I'm a bit spooked by it.
Are you? Oh,
Yeah.
this morning, it was about a week ago. My partner comes in, he brings me a coffee in because I get up at 5 every morning and I work for about an hour. He gets up at 6 and he makes coffee and brings it in for me. And I go, oh my God, I think I'm in love. And he thought I was going to make reference to him in the coffee.
Yeah.
And I went, with AI. And I've been working all morning and I'd actually just achieved so much. I now, when I travel, I dictate. So I got out of the prison, I thought, I've actually got to send this and this, this, this and this, so I want to make a memo on this, and I love it. I'm also doing a postgrad diploma in Māori visual arts at Massey at the moment, and it's interesting, I was just filed my first report to set up the arts project I'm going to do, and I was talking to my supervisor, and a lot of that had been generated by AI. So I'd taken the images I wanted to take, but then the project that I'm doing is I'm taking women in gang type of scenarios and I'm placing them in fancy living rooms or in prestige cars, or I'm juxtaposing the narrative just to what that. And I had to do that because I hadn't actually taken those shots, so I had to do it through AI. My tutor was going, I can't believe these shots are amazing.
But you have to say,
whose living room was it? And I thought, I've got to come on.
You have to say,
it was AI.
AI.
Yeah, he went, oh my God, I would never have known. These are amazing. Yeah, and I took her on a couch in her living room with her big Shar-Pei dog, and her house is terrible. It's over the other side of Frankton. It's a really tough area for her to be in, and it's very small and just lots of clutter, and it's just a hard space for her to be in. And so I took the shot, but then I actually, through AI, I put it in this fancy sort of Remuera kind of living. Yeah, it did such a good job.
Oh, well, no, there's definitely lots of good
so
things.
I love AI.
I like it. There's bits of it I'm looking, going, not so keen
I
on.
love it. Yeah.
What's happening to jobs, etc. Talking about
That's
jobs
the
and
reality.
family.
They just change.
Your family, your daughter works with you, and your mother worked with you until recently.
Yeah, she was 87 when she retired, and that was last year. So she had her 87th birthday in January, and she finished in December just before that. So pretty cool. Yeah. So.
And your daughter's hands-on in the business.
She's 37. She's had a small son who we've kind of jointly brought up within the company as well. He's 3, but she's 37, and the goal is for us we work in very separate and distinct parts of the company. So she's got the kind of the administrative social media part, and I've got the fashion, the design, the production piece, plus I've obviously got the social impact footprint, I've got Sisterhood, and I've got the Unfiltered, the podcast.
Yeah.
But
Which
she
you're doing
joins
with
me
you?
on the podcast as
Yes.
well. The podcasts are mixed. Sometimes I just do them. It depends. If I'm doing a social impact one around the raw journeys, because she's not so involved in that, she won't jump on. But if I'm doing something, often we'll just do them together and we'll talk about something topical. You know, i.e. when Augustine got into all that trouble around discontinuing the fuller figure part of her collection. Yeah, so we decided to just jump on and talk about, not to thrash Augustine, the fashion label, but just more to talk about, what our approach would have been, or how we would have done that, or why people do that, why they take that piece out of their collection. So.
It's so important, though. I mean, my shape has changed over. Most women's shape changes,
absolutely.
right? So. You might be the stick to start with, and then you become a mum, and you either get more sticky because you're just running around and you don't eat, and then your weight changes with menopause, and your shape changes. I mean, that's.
Well,
your label is definitely.
Well, we go to 3X.
We
go to 3XL. So, but I guess people make choices for a whole lot of reasons. Fashion is really hard. A lot of the labels that I grew up with are no longer here. The smaller labels, and I also brought Halewood for a while. So we were together for a while, and I saw how hard it was when you're actually targeting that top end. I've never cared whether celebrities as such in this country wear my clothes or not. What I care is women like yourselves turn up in front rows where I'm presenting, and that's what's important to me. It's never been important to see a celebrity who won't have paid for that frock and will just return it the next day. And so for me, it's very much the woman like yourself. So thank you for that. So it's Yeah, it's...
So you're designing for real women to wear
Well, no,
real clothes.
Just all women,
All
it's
women,
inclusive,
yes.
It's, for me, I just want all women to enjoy the clothes. The flowers have become a bit of a trademark. Often I'll play around with it for a while and I'll say, I should put a plain shirt on or a plain, and Sam will go, why? And I'll go, because, how are they going to wear this if I don't, the skirt? And she goes, they'll just go to Glassons and buy a white T-shirt or, and I go, but maybe if we just put a plain white linen shirt. She goes, Mum, they'll never buy it, And then Sam will walk away and go, you know what? I need stuff for the sale anyway. Go ahead, fill your boots. And every time I do that, she's right. She's right. If I play with the flowers, it sells. People know us as the flower label.
Yeah.
And I love flowers. My grandmother loved flowers. My mother loves flowers. I love flowers.
Oh, they make you feel good.
Yeah, they
Every
do.
time I open my laptop with my lovely floral case, so it makes me feel good, even though if I open my laptop going, I'm not really keen on that.
So, no, it's certainly, yeah.
Oh, I should give you, ladies and gentlemen, a crack now with some questions.
Anna, several years ago, I heard you speak about a project you were doing with women in prison when they came out of prison and they may have wanted to leave the drugs and everything behind, but they were finding that they had to go back where they'd been. And you and your sister, I believe, were
That's what we're talking about,
something out towards Tiara, was it?
Yeah.
And you were keeping them there.
Yeah, I think that's probably the piece I didn't talk about with Raw. So that is Raw, and that's, I guess, that home is the reintegrative or the outside piece. So that home is in Tiara.
You've got a physical place.
Yeah, because Raw was initially what we call an out-of-gate therapeutic model. So effectively we would work inside the prisons, the woman would exit into the houses, and then from there we would endeavour to sort of create positive pathways forward. The Tiara home is still very much a big part of who we are. It can take up to 8 women at a time. So there's that part of the home. And my sister, who's had 25 years in mental health, she runs that part. So she's our clinical operations manager. And I was in the prison with her this morning. But the piece that's really important now is to take all that learning and all that lived experience that we have. And often corrections aren't so keen around including lived experience and some of the stuff that they do moving forward. So we're wanting to get those voices heard. So effectively that model's still very valid. There's been over 100 women through that house, and they are very much part of how we, I guess, inform ourselves and know that what we are doing is what they want, not just what we want.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a difference. So we are informed. So we have a group called RAG, R-A-G, and that's the Raw Advisory Group. And so that's a group of 10 women that have done substantive and very different and diverse things. And some can be as, I guess, just as getting their children back or getting their grandchildren back out of gang environments and, bringing them. So they actually advise us in a capacity of, where we need to kind of get our heads around what is it that women really want.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's still very real for us.
Yeah.
Where do you get all the materials from and that, with your choices of materials?
That's a really good question. I guess in New Zealand now there's no fabric suppliers really left. There might be a couple of fabric houses, but effectively all our fabric's made up in Asia anyway, so in China. And now after COVID, so when we went, we didn't talk about COVID, but when we went into COVID, we kind of had a very struggling, we were in a struggle space really in respect of clothing. We really were, and we got into the business of face masks. Some of you might have known. We had
matches the dress.
We had a reach out from a charity. It was Maria English, Bill English's daughter, who reached out to me and said, "Hey Anna, we need some face masks we were looking for about 6,000 face masks for an ageing disabled community that are a little bit fearful, and everyone was fearful, I guess, of the. And I said, you know what, Maria, we've got nothing to do, and I got a truckload of fabric, so we'll make the masks at no cost for you. And that changed everything for us. One social media post where we put it up and it said, hey guys, stay safe, and we were suitably physically distanced or masked up. We're here, we're now an essential business or service, and we're making face masks. My God, we did millions of face masks.
Wow.
It was
So it
insane.
became a business in itself.
We went from Struggle Street and we put all the cash flow back in the business. But the other thing that we did was we actually put all the eyes back on the prize because the masks were sold on our website. And so, of course, people that had kind of disconnected from the brand because we'd aged and they thought they knew what we did, suddenly actually found us again. So we became relevant. And through that time, I'd also, me with time on my hands is not good, I decided to pivot into accessories and homeware. So I've been playing around with just developing our own. But to answer your question, effectively all the fabric comes out of China, but all the prints are mine. So I design them.
Ah,
Yeah,
I see.
so I create them.
You create them and then they make
yeah.
them. Okay,
So
good.
I create the prints. Yeah.
Tell me about the mask. Do you have to put, the N95, all the filters?
Well, initially we didn't.
No,
they were
that was
fabric masks. So we started with fabric masks,
And then it moved to another phase,
after
didn't it? Yeah.
34 years and all this time of making in New Zealand, I had warehouses of fabric, so I didn't know what to do with the damn fabric. So when we started to make the masks, we just got the cutting tables going again. We got the sewing machines out and dusted them off, and we kind of engaged the community. And we would drop off the suitably distanced stuff. We'd drop off stuff at people's houses who made for us, and so that's how we got through and got the sort of the quantity of masks through. And then kind of Jacinda came out and said, actually, you need the KN95. You need the
But
whole.
you could slip them in. Did you still?
No, but I think there's kind of someone up there looking after me because I kind of thought that we were getting to the stage where there was some conversation happening around fabric masks just not being as good, or people taking them on and off. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to have a look at these KN95. So I just randomly decided to put thousands of them on a shipment that got out just before Chinese New Year. And just before they made that decision, I had them landing in New Zealand. So I can remember spending. It was Waitangi weekend because Chinese New Year was in that first part of February, and I was sitting up there just trying to get the flight to leave China before they locked down for Chinese New Year, and we got it. It got out and into Taiwan. I thought, I've done it. These masks are going to land. I am cooking with gas.
And then you put the mask over the.
No, we just sold KN95s then. Yeah,
Oh.
and of course, once again, it was that whole panic thing. You need them. You've got to get them. Get 3. Get some for your kids. And of course, people wanted a trusted brand to be involved in that. They wanted to know, and we've become a trusted brand. So that's important too. That I work with people that actually can be trusted.
Correct.
In respect of what's happening up in China. And China, as much as we like to distrust China, there's lots of trusted relationships that I have up there.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, well then, so I have got a last question for you. What is your parting advice for this age group about living your best life with what you know about life?
Yeah, I guess I'm 66 now, and I guess I honestly feel 36 around what I can achieve or what I can approach. And this morning I was sitting there with in a correctional space, and I was in a conversation, and I managed to achieve the outcome that I wanted. And my sister came out and she said, "Oh my gosh, you are so to the chase, so direct." And I thought, I've only just learnt that now. To be able to do that. Imagine if I had learnt that at 36, what I could have achieved in that time. But I've got to stop thinking like that. And I saw a wonderful post from Robin Malcolm where she talked about it's really important that we live the age we are. We don't keep thinking that we want to be 30 or 50 or 40 or whatever that is, because there's plenty of other people coming behind us that are actually, they deserve to be that age. They are that age. So I need to show how wonderful it is to be 66 and how much I'm enjoying and able to actually, I guess, be me achieving a truckload of stuff. Going back to university to do my master's in social policy. I also did a master's in Māori and Indigenous and a master's in photography. So I did 3 masters between my late 50s and sort of 65.
Wow.
Just finished one now. So,
Okay.
But that was really...
She's tiring.
I just fell in love with academia. I just loved it, you know, and so I wanted to study. It wasn't about... Initially it started around corrections and the difficulty to have the conversations with them. So I thought, I will do this in a way that I sound like them, because I don't sound like them. And then it became, oh my gosh, I love this space, so I'm going to do more. And then I got into the creative space around masters. So it was the learning I loved. So never stop doing that, never stop learning, never stop moving, you know. And I look at my mum and I think, you know, that whole nutritional piece is important. Never stop eating well, you know, never stop valuing yourself and really believing in yourself. So whilst mum sets some very good benchmarks around working capability, I believe that she probably needed to believe in herself more, you know, and really back herself more. But it is about being healthy. It is about being really able to move, and it is about being cognitively, you know, really kind of inspired each day. I mean, I love my life, and I just see it getting fuller and fuller.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you.